How's it going, guys? Welcome to Audio Addiction. We have a special guest with us tonight. She can say her name, what she does, and just, anything else she wants to talk about.
Awesome. Well, hi guys. My name is Marta Palombo. I am an artist and a singer-songwriter based out of Nashville, Tennessee. I'm originally from Italy, so I'm bilingual and all of that good stuff. And I write folk, pop, tunes, singer-songwriter stuff. It's kind of a mix between Joni Mitchell and Florence and the Machine. So yeah, that is what I do. I spend my time here writing and recording and working and doing things I love.
There we go. Well, I want to preface this interview because it's probably going to seem just a smidge off from what I typically do. I want to say Marta is a complete saint because I went back and I watched our first interview, and there was no sound, like zero sound coming, and I thought I was having an existential crisis. And then I found out that there was no audio recorded because when I updated the software that records these interviews, it turned off my mics and everything. So I graciously typed away at Marta and said, please come back, please. And so she graciously had come back. So obviously to you, it will seem like as if another day has gone by. But for me, I was living in a very hellish landscape for about a good 24 hours.
It's okay because you asked me in the first interview like some good movie recommendations and I like totally blanked, but this time I have movies
You
like
got
in
them.
my head, so
See,
I've
now
got it.
she's got the knowledge. She's got the questions. Well, I feel like since this is interview 1.5, I have to kind of like give a little bit more. We have to give a little bit more spicy details,
Ooh, okay, yeah.
But obviously, the first question, Marta, and you've had time to sit on it, craft a beautiful story.
Oh, elephant.
Tell the
Yes.
people, how did you start out? I know we spoke in the last interview that you're really into a specific type of genre that I feel like most people wouldn't necessarily peg you for. So you can tell the people about that, but like more specifically, I guess, how did you start out? How did you kind of get into the like indie, like folk, that sort of sphere of music? Because I feel like we touched upon it, but we didn't like really delve, So I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah. So I started out, I kind of, for as long as I can remember, have just been making up songs, like even, when I was little. I actually, one of my favorite videos that I found somewhere in the vaults of like someone's phone is me as a toddler and I'm like banging on the piano and my dad's behind the camera and I look at him because I was a very sassy toddler.
Sure.
And I look at him and I'm like, you didn't clap. And so I'm like, he's supposed to be clapping. Like, it's the funniest thing. It's like, so
That's great.
I've always just been like doing that, I guess. So I guess, we should have known. But I really discovered that I loved singing when I joined choir in fourth grade. And up until that point, like, music class was my favorite class in elementary school. And it was like once a week, and they were like, okay, well, you are now fourth graders, you're all grown up, you can join choir if you want to. And I was like, heck yeah, it's my favorite day of the week. And I joined, and like the minute that we all just like opened our mouths and sang together, it was like the most magical thing. And I just like, it clicked in my head. I was like, this is something that I need to keep doing. Like, it needs to keep happening. And so, of course, I continued on in choir all throughout middle and high school. I was like running all of the extracurricular programs and doing literally everything I could. And somewhere around middle school, I was like, I listen to artists. Like, they write songs. But clearly, I can probably do that. Like, there's some sort of path where I can do that as a living. So I kind of connected somewhere around 8th grade. I was like, I keep writing all these songs. That's exactly what artists on the radio do. There's probably a way to do that. And so I just kept writing, and in high school there were some after school programs where we formed like bands and I got to kind of perform some originals and get used to singing in like a solo aspect as opposed to choir. And then it came time for college and I was like, all right, well, I need to move to a city that is really music based. Like, I need to move to a music city, and I moved to the music city because I'm in Nashville right now. And I just need to dive in. And so that's exactly what I did. I kind of came here and I started doing writers rounds and just writing as much as I could and going to all these networking events and just trying to figure it out along the way. And it's been going well.
Well, that obviously is very good. If people haven't checked out your music, I feel like hopefully this interview will implore them to go check your music out. You did say in like when you were younger, you know, like your dad would film you playing piano and stuff. Is your family like very musical, and so you kind of were like ingrained at it? I know, like you said, in fourth grade, you were like, you know, obviously got into music school, and that is when your passion kind of like came out, and you're just like, yeah, I love music. I just want to do it. Do you feel like your family? Do you come from a family that's just like really musical as well, and so that kind of like at a younger age, you're just like, man, it would be cool to like be band people and do this sort of stuff, you know?
Honestly, not really. I think everyone in my family has a really deep like appreciation for music. Like
Sure.
I know, especially as I got older, like my dad and I find have really similar music tastes, and I'm kind of thinking like, oh yeah, he used to play this stuff around the house when I was little. Like it's pretty cool. Like I can understand it now. But we have a relative, like we have a couple of relatives in Italy that do music. But I think that one of the relatives whose appreciation for music really helped form a lot of what I was doing and what I'm still doing is my uncle, because he is super, super into rock and metal. I mean, his whole apartment is like just wall to wall CDs. He collects everything. It's amazing. He used to dress me up as a baby with like little Megadeth bandanas.
That's
Great
awesome.
time. Yeah. And so he, as I was growing up, he would be like, well, do you want to listen to some stuff? And he really spent a lot of time trying to figure out what shade of rock and metal I liked specifically until we landed on something that we agreed on. And I fell in love with symphonic metal because it was just so many contrasting ideas and genres and elements that you're kind of told don't go together. Like classical music is its own thing, and then rock music is its own thing, and then suddenly you had this genre where you had the opera singer singing all of this beautiful soprano stuff, and then you have like she's headbanging to these electric guitars, but then there's like a whole string section in the background, and it was just like, this is so cool. Why doesn't everyone do this? Why doesn't everyone just cross streams like this?
Yeah.
It's awesome. So it definitely influenced a lot of what I do in the sense of I don't really write based off of what I think is catchy or what a genre, like what fits into a specific genre. I just kind of go for whatever fits the lyrics that I'm writing and go for whatever expresses it best.
Yeah.
And growing up with such different genres constantly around me really helped me to just say, you know, screw it, just write whatever you want. Let it influence whatever.
Yeah, no, I feel like, and I know that I mentioned it before, was like, I just love how diverse, and like, I feel like when I listen to your stuff, and I obviously had more time to go back and listen to it again, I was like, I remember like, because like I said, we did the interview, and I was like, man, I should just go back and like listen to her stuff just a little bit more intensely now, just because I feel like partially guilty, and also because like she makes great music. So I was like, man, I was like, some of the elements that like we talked about in like the past interview one, as we call it, you know, I felt like there was definitely things that I picked out in the interview that I hope people will go listen to and go check out, because it does feel like almost in a sense there's like no boundaries to like what you do, and you know, I have to appreciate that as an artist. I don't feel like you're gonna be like out here, you know, having like a Taylor Swift song and then have like a symphonic metal song. I mean, it's possible, could happen, but
Maybe, you never know.
that's quite a stretch. But I feel like within the confines of like indie folk and like kind of like indie rock sort of stuff, like you definitely, like, I feel like test the barriers. And so like as me as a listener and as obviously an interviewer and listening to like a bunch of different stuff, it makes me appreciate different stuff that you do, because I'm like, wow, Marta's really going out there. And like, I know some people like might be like, what is she doing, you know? But like, I'm also like, this is great, she should do it more. Like, I don't want to like alienate your fan base at all, but like, I was like super stoked at like how far reaching it is. And so I don't know if that's something like, again, that you intentionally think about, but it just really works. And so like, obviously had to give you the kudos for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know that it's something that I actively, like, I don't sit there and think like, okay, how can I just take this next level? Like, I mean, but it is definitely one of those things where like I was writing sketches, which is one of, actually I'll talk about both singles since the other one is out now. The sketches, I wrote this song and I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever written a song that's under 3 minutes. Like, good for me. Like, awesome. We're right in the pop realm, and the production is going to be a little bit more pop. And then I was sitting there listening to it and I was like, I need to put a string quartet interlude in there. And I just remember, like, the producer was like, okay, this is going to be lit. But it was definitely like, what? And yeah, this is gonna be cool. And it turned out beautiful. But again, like, I definitely didn't think, like, I had a radio ready song and then I took it and I just butchered it for radio completely. And the second one that I released, we ended up like producing it, mixing it, mastering it, and it ended up being 6 minutes long. And I was like, see, this is great. And even my producer was like, this doesn't feel like 6 minutes. I mean, It really just flows well. But it definitely is, like, you see, the timestamp on Spotify and you're like, why is this 6 minutes long? Like, no one in their right mind is going to put this on a playlist. Like, literally, what? But it just, like, that's the amount of words that need to be said. And
Yeah.
I felt like the chorus needed to repeat twice, so we added a whole minute onto that. Like, I think it just goes with whatever expresses the lyrics best and whatever expresses what you're trying to say best, regardless of how long it is or what the instrumentation is or what genre it falls into.
I mean, listen, I listen to Dream Theater and they make like a 12-minute track, so this felt like a cakewalk,
Right? And that's the thing, is I'm so used to listening to genres that have like 7-8 minutes long. Even classical music, you're like, all right, I'm sitting here for 40 minutes, cool. But in terms of, the more indie folk or pop realm that we're trying to break into as artists, it's definitely like, this is not the usual.
It's like short, I don't know, at least from my perspective as being like a I love pop music too. I feel like people that come up to me, they're like, oh, you listen to metal, so you must not love like pop music. And I'm like, no, pop music's great.
Mm-hmm.
If I want a happy song and I just want to vibe out, I'll go listen to some like Dua Lipa or like Ariana Grande or something like that. And people are like, what? You listen to those people?
You can have taste in multiple genres.
I know.
What a concept.
And then their head explodes, and then I feel guilt. I feel bad about it, But like, I feel like you said, that for people who are like familiar with like that indie pop or indie folk or indie rock genre, they're like, why would you create a 6-minute track? Like, who's gonna be sitting through 6 minutes? Like, I can barely keep attention for people for like 2 minutes. Like,
yeah,
why would I want to sit through a 6-minute song? And I felt like for myself, like, and especially I would say with that song in particular, it's like, it's a journey. Like, I feel like you're gonna listen to it, you wanna, and I saw your TikTok, you're like, put on some hot tea, just listen to it.
Yes.
And I feel like as like being an interviewer and interviewing a lot of different bands from like different genres, I feel like sometimes you don't get the appreciation for like a long song, because you're just like, you're like a fan, like a rabid fan, just like, I need new music, I need it right now, I need it to be like out yesterday, and so I feel like we don't really take into account or gratification for like a track that's longer than probably 4 minutes, and so
Yeah.
I hope that people listen to it, because again, it is a great journey as a song, and I feel like it has just like a really good emotion to it that, again, probably people from my fan base are going to enjoy, because again, we all know Dream Theater and they make very long songs, or so it doesn't feel like it's out of the wheelhouse.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was just saying that overall the stream count, obviously on the docs, which is the 6-minute song, is lesser than sketches, but the actual response that I've gotten on a personal level from people like sharing it or just texting me and being like, this is beautiful, has been like so much more than sketches, which is is honestly just a better measure of success, probably, because I'm like, okay, great, people are, they're really feeling it. Like, maybe less
Yeah.
people are listening to it, but it's reaching the people that it needs to reach, who just want to just self-care for 6 minutes and like just breathe for a second.
Yeah, I think it's like, at least from what my inclination was when I like first listened to it when it came out, I was like, I appreciated the honesty of it. I think that I don't want to like, I feel like I don't want to give away too much, but like it does have this like honest take to it. And I feel like with an artist, that is something particularly for me that I enjoy. And I think like in a lot of metal music, I feel like it evokes that emotion. And so like, I kind of found solace in that I'm like Marta's like a metalhead kind of, and like she like is writing this like indie folk masterpiece here. And so it kind of like two worlds were like exploded. So I was definitely about it. And I felt like just the just the interestingness of like how the lyrics are and how they kind of play out in a 6-minute span, I think was just well put together. So also shout outs to your producer. I think
Thank you.
he
Yes,
he did a
yes.
fantastic job. So I don't know what his name is, so if you want to give him a
His
shout
name
out
is
to.
Foster Farrell. Foster Farrell. He's amazing. He worked with me on the EP that I released before this, so Him Volume 1, and all of these 3 singles that are coming out, and he's amazing to work with. Yeah, for
Shout
sure.
outs to Foster. You're the dude. Next question, Marta. Keeping it more interesting. Again, you already know these questions, so I feel like you
I
have.
probably forgot them, to be honest. My memory is, it's fine. This is authentic.
This is authentic again. It's 1.5, but it feels like 1. Who are you influenced by? I know you specifically talked about, Florence and the Machine the last time, and do you have any more others, that you are specifically influenced by that really kind of shaped your music to what you're creating now?
I would say definitely for lyric-wise, the first artist that I consciously remember listening to in the more pop or pop country realm was Taylor Swift.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember she was one of the first people that I listened to that I was like, these are really good songs. Like I'm processing mentally that these are really, really good lyrics, and the structure of the music is really well done. And so, and I'm a huge fan of her to this day. So it only developed and got even bigger. But I definitely remember thinking like that these are really beautiful words. Like the way that she strings words together and expresses emotions is really beautiful. And so I listened to a lot of that, and I started emulating a lot of that in my own writing. So she kind of taught me how to write in a lot of ways. And then musically speaking, again, it was kind of a whole bunch of different things, because I really wanted the focus to be on the words, and I always wanted the words to be the most important thing. So it really just got to a point where I was thinking, in terms of, I don't want to be influenced stylistically. I just want to do what feels best for these lyrics. So if I think, oh, I wrote a song that's kind of in this vein, and I remember when Evanescence did this really beautiful piano track for something, and I feel like something similar piano-wise would work well for this. So you just kind of take bits and pieces from everything that you listened to growing up, which for me was a huge mix of pop and metal and all of that, and you just take it and say, okay, what is going to highlight these emotions that these lyrics are expressing? So yeah. And later on, when I was trying to develop my brand, as you will, so many people were telling me, you look a lot like Florence and the Machine on stage, just the way that you move. And I use my arms a lot, and they wave around in weird ways. So I was like, well, production wise, I feel like there's a lot that Florence is doing that I'm kind of trying to do in my own way, I guess. And so I was like, okay, I could see myself, comparing myself to her. And that's a huge honor that people are like, yeah, you sound a lot like Florence. I'm like, Jesus, thank you.
I would agree.
And they're like, yeah, your voice sounds like Joni Mitchell. Again, Jesus, thank you. Like, that's insane. So I was listening to both of them, and I was like, no, I really think that a mix of these two is where I usually land. Unintentionally, honestly, but it's where I usually land most often.
With a little bit of Taylor Swift sprinkled.
Yeah, with a little bit of Taylor sprinkled on top.
Taylor sprinkle. But no, I feel like, again, I know I keep saying it, but like I went back and listened to more of your stuff, and especially the stuff that like I feel like obviously you're not like heavily promoting like some of the back catalog stuff that, and I was listening to it and I'm like, man, I was like, there's like a lot of depth that as an artist, like it's cool to see like kind of the growth of, like you said, you released Him One, and I've been listening through to all the singles up to this point, and I'm like, it's cool to see like your perspective, and like lyrically you've gotten like a lot better, and I feel like just like the musicality has gotten better too, and so it's impressive to me, especially like, you know, going now further, and you know, you're always welcome back on, obviously, but I feel like for myself, like it's gonna be cool to see like progressions, because like I've been doing this for like 5 years now, so I've seen bands like grow and change over those time periods, and so for me as like an interviewer, it's really cool to see like the expressions kind of change, like the lyrical process change, like the musicality change, but like I feel like as obviously as you go on, the voice is just going to continue to like progress and like and become better. And I feel like the comparison to like Florence and the Machine and like Jody Mitchell with like a little bit of Taylor Swift, I think accurately, like I feel like it accurately represents you, and so people who like those people should definitely go check out Marta for sure.
Thank you.
And I think that they have, I think you possess some of the best qualities of each one of those people,
Ooh, thank
and
you.
so gotta give props. You know, I really feel like I spent a lot more time. It's probably very guilt driven again, but it's just because I do. I feel like I'm sometimes, if something doesn't go right, I'm fueled by the guilt of getting it wrong. So, you know, if your Spotify streams kicked up just a smidge, then you know.
Okay, that's good to know. They did, in fact. So it was all you.
It was all me. It was just me guiltily crying over my computer keys, and but no, but honestly, like I was like, it was probably because I was just like editing videos, and like I like listening to past artists, like, you know, every once in a while, just to be like, hey, I support you, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was just like, this is really cool, and you know, again, it's great to have you back on, quote unquote, but yeah, no, I feel like people who enjoy those artists are definitely going to enjoy your work for sure. Do you feel like, because you know, because you've written Him One, do you feel like as you yourself as an artist, do you feel like you have progressed, you know, releasing the 2 singles you have out now in comparison to like Him One? You know, I don't know what the year gap was between,
Yeah.
you know, time frame between those two, but do you feel like you as yourself as an artist have progressed, like whether it be like musicality wise or lyrically, or a combination of the two?
I think in terms of, so the Him Volume 1 and then these ones, these singles came out just a year apart.
Oh wow, okay.
Feels like it was more than a year because
I
it was
know.
2020, so it was a wild
2020
year.
doesn't exist. That's what
Doesn't
that's what
exist.
I've come to consensus of, you know.
Absolutely not. So I definitely think for me, Him Volume 1 was a very conscious sort of rebrand almost, because it was up until that point I was writing so many songs and I was releasing songs, but I honestly had no idea what I was doing. No idea what I was doing. I knew how to upload them to be distributed, and that was honestly about it. And so I didn't know much about the recording process. I didn't know much about marketing or advertising or really figuring out your brand as an artist.
Sure.
And so I took some time in between. The very last single that I released before Him was called Gold. And it was a super cute song. I love it to this day. And I took some real conscious time off to really just focus on, okay, how do you social media? Like, how do you, like, what do you do and what do you need as an artist? How do you build a website? How do you get yourself out there in the most professional way possible? And in those 2 years, I think it was about 2 years in between Gold and Him, it was a lot of me really diving into the Nashville scene and trying to meet people and trying to find a producer that I wanted to work with, trying to find people that I wanted to collaborate with. So the growth in between Gold and Him is astronomical. It does not even sound like the same, the same artist. I think a lot of the lyrical aspects are there, but the quality is just kind of heightened.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so excited because I had finally figured out like the niche that I wanted to embody, and I was like, okay, everything from now on I can release in this confident brand as this confident artist. I know exactly where I want to go and what I want to be doing. So him was the rebirth, if you will. It's a very dramatic term, but it's what came to mind. And then obviously I released him at the end of February in 2020, and then a week later they kicked me out of college. They were like, okay, go home. Like, everyone needs to go home. The world is shutting down. We're like, oh, okay, great. So the perspective and the experiences that I was writing about definitely shifted a lot between him and the singles that are coming out now, which are part of a project called The Quarantine Tapes, because I was stuck at home and I was writing a lot. So yeah.
It came from a very honest place, so I appreciate that. People know on the channel, but like I took a break towards the end. I would say like I guess I would say like late to end of 2020, just because I had been going like nonstop for like 4 years of doing this. So like my brain was just like puttering to a stop. And, I always say this, and I feel like, my fans know this. Just like take time for yourself. Like, and I felt like that was really strong in your music. And so like, as a person that has and probably, will struggle with like mental health and stuff, like it was important. Obviously, not only shout outs to Erica from Muddy Paw for, obviously having you on my show, but also like it's cool to see that like something like that like can produce, like beautiful music and stuff. Like, a lot of people think like, oh my God, we're stuck inside. Like, what are we going to do? And so I feel like with your music, like I feel like you took a real like negative situation and really made it something positive, and I feel like obviously emotionally driven, and so I feel like a lot of people can obviously resonate with that at the time. And so the quarantine sessions so far I think have been really good, and I like I said, as I mentioned before, I think it's fantastic material that everybody should go check out, because it does, to me, like when I went back and listened to it again for like a couple of different times, like I was like, wow, this is hitting like shouldn't be hitting as hard as it is. I mean, not to say that it isn't. Like your music does hit hard in that in the chest, but like
good.
I was like, man, I'm like, this was just an emotional journey, and obviously I feel lucky to be a part of the journey and listening into your artistry and stuff. So I feel like when I was like listening to it, I was like, man, that was what my time period was, when I was like taking a break and just like taking that self-care and like looking at myself and like being like, just because you're taking a break doesn't mean you're like a bad person, or you're like, or because like because like people are gonna like be like, oh my God, like why aren't you putting out content and stuff. And so I feel like obviously getting back into it and ramping it up a little bit more now, I feel like now I'm taking more of a conscious effort to like look myself in the mirror and be like, are you working too hard? Like you should work hard enough, but not like be in that spot ever again. And so I think it's important for that. And also shout out to my girlfriend, because she was like definitely like, you need to take a break right now. Who cares for how long it is? Just take time to yourself, and that's important. And I'm glad that you stress that in your music. Obviously, not all of it's written about that, but more specifically, like the singles in the quarantine series have been really good so far. So I'm excited to listen and hear the third one and pushed to the emotional brink.
Yes.
But the next question, Marta, keeping it light, I feel like we went into some heavy.
We went into that. It was a good tangent. It was
a good tangent. But we went into a little bit deep water, so we're kind of like moving our way out a little bit. Who have you been listening to lately? Who have you been jamming? What's on the Spotify? What has Marta been listening to lately?
I think I said this last time too, but I love Halsey's Manic album. That it's a couple at this point. It's I don't know how many years old it is at this point, but it just hits different every time. Like it's just really good. Um, Obviously, Folklore and Evermore, as always, best albums to date. So I've been jamming to those. Um, Dua Lipa, you mentioned her earlier, and I was like, oh my god, that's a good album
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
That was an insane album. So so good. So yeah, just a lot of that stuff, and then Bon Iver as usual,
Yeah.
just to keep it chill on rainy days. So yeah, that about does it.
Yeah, I've been on the big Dua Lipa wave. My girlfriend can attest that however many millions of times we've listened to Future
Yes.
Nostalgia. Um, so much to the point that I bought a bass and I learned how to play like one of the
Really?
songs on bass because
That's so cool. I love
I was like
that.
listening to it. I'm like, I was like, I've been wanting to buy a bass for a hot minute. And I was just like, this just gives me the perfect excuse to like
Yeah.
learn that song on bass and also to buy a bass. So like two
Yes.
good things, which are
Yes.
great. So I feel like I have an unhealthy obsession with that record, which is
I
totally
mean,
fine.
honestly, of all the records to have an unhealthy obsession with, that's a good one.
And I know that you mentioned Taylor Swift. Like, I feel like Folklore and Evermore. Like, I know, and I know I mentioned this in the last interview. I'm like, not to say like I'm a Taylor Swift hater, but like she isn't my particular cup of tea. However, I will say there was a lot of people that told me to listen to both those records, and so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna swallow my pride. I'm gonna go listen to Taylor Swift because if anybody knows that's worked retail, you know you hear at least five different Taylor Swift songs in any given day, and then you go back to work and you hear the same five Taylor Swift songs until they are just like beaten into you
Yes.
senseless. So I was like, you know what? Listen, I don't want no shade to Taylor Swift. So I was like, let me really honestly and truly listen to the new stuff. And I listened to it and I was like, this is good. Like, this is real good. Like, I was genuinely surprised at how good it was. Not that I didn't think she was a good writer. I just was like surprised, just like the type of quality and like material that she was able to come out with, and how it didn't sound like, you know, stuff that I hear on the radio all the time, and it felt more honest and like definitely more mature for like what she's doing. So I felt like it didn't feel like I was listening to Shake It Off for the 1 millionth time. You know, it felt like something really like refreshing, really like thoughtful and mature. So, you know, listen, if I know my recommendation is very low on the list and Marta's is like super high since she's such, you know, such a big Taylor Swift stan, you know,
Yes.
if I don't give the recommendation, I know Bart has already given the recommendation, so you should go check it out if you feel inclined to. Um, the next question, Marta, keeping it interesting. Um, for people who are watching this interview and are like, who is Marta Palumbo? Like, who is
Oh boy.
she? Like, what, you know, what does she do? What's her favorite song on like that she's put out? Like, what is one song that like a new listener like has to listen to in your mind?
I think it's funny you said what's your favorite song, and I actually just wrote one today with my guitarist that is I'm like so excited about. So I was like that one, but that's not out yet, so we can't
Oh
talk.
man, you hit me
Um,
with that salacious
I know. I
detail.
was like, oh my god.
Ugh.
But yeah, it's funny. I took like a voice memo of it while we were like like writing it and stuff, and it's just a lot of me like swearing and screaming because I'm so excited about it. Which is that sounds like a very dramatic reaction, but it happens sometimes. You hear a sound and you're like, oh my god. So that when it's out will probably be one of my favorites. But I think definitely right now, in terms of my favorite song that I've released is called A House, and it is the very last song on the Hymn Volume 1 EP. And it's just so peaceful, and it came from a very personal place. And it's one of my favorites. It's definitely probably my favorite that I've released. And then in terms of like the intro song, I guess, of like what someone should listen to if they're like, hey, what does she generally do? I think the single Hymn is probably a really good starter, just because it delves into a lot of things lyrically, that you know, structurally and with the lyrics, I think it's pretty similar to a lot of other things that I write. You get a sense for how I write, and it's also production wise, it's a good mix of the more upbeat but also the more meditative things that I write. It's definitely a good mix. So if you want to just have a taste for what I do, I think that's probably a good one to start with, is him.
I would recommend House as well. I went back and listened to that one because my brain was watching the first interview, even though I couldn't hear anything. I was like, I remember what we were talking about, and I knew it was there. So I was like, gotta go listen to this one. And I listened to it again, and I was just like, this is, I could see why it's your favorite. It slowly has become, you know, obviously the newer tracks to me are the most familiar just because they are new, but that A House was like, I was like, man, this one's another really good one. So that I feel like people aren't gonna like, I feel like people are gonna watch this and maybe be like, oh my god, now I gotta go look it up and stuff.
All of them, yes.
all of them go look that one up. But go check out the new stuff too. I'll leave links in the description for like her two newest singles that you can go check out. But the next question, Marta, if you could pick a song to cover, what would it be?
Song to cover. Okay. I know what I said last time in the last interview for this, and I'm trying to come up with something different.
Completely new.
Completely new. Oh God, the pressure is on.
Or you could say the old one. That's fine.
I could probably.
No one knows. Only we know.
No one knows it, so it's fine. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I will say, so as much of a Taylor Swift stan as I am, she sings in a way that's actually very challenging a lot of the times to replicate for people that have who like me have been studying voice like for so long, because she has such a sort of beautiful simplified way of singing. Like it really is not complicated. There's not a lot of bells and whistles on it. She just sings, and that's really hard for someone who has spent so much time like refining their voice and like doing all of these years of, you know, study for it, because you want to make things more technically difficult than they are. And so I talked last time a little bit about this, but I don't cover a lot of Taylor Swift songs because I find that it's really difficult for me to really hit that vocal style really well. It just doesn't translate super well into the way that I sing. But I've been listening to Willow like nonstop from the Evermore album, so I would love to at some point find a way to just simplify my singing enough to get through that and make a really nice cover of that. I think that would be really cool.
I would be very interested in checking that out. I feel like, to me, again, I know I said it very like minutes ago about, you know, really enjoying, you know, Evermore and Folklore a lot. I just feel like it would be, I feel like your voice, now that now that I have your voice and I know Taylor Swift's voice, I'm like, yeah, that would be, I feel like that would be a very interesting one to try to do. But I feel like if anybody's up for the task, I feel like you definitely would be.
I mean, the way that she sings is deceptively difficult. Like, she's so good. She's so good. Yeah, it's definitely a deceptive thing. It sounds so easy and effortless, and then you go in and you're like, wait, this is actually a really difficult notes. Like, this is a very difficult melody to keep in tune and everything. So yeah.
Well, if you have any suggestions for Marta, drop them in the comments.
Yes,
I'm sure she'll
do.
check them out. Maybe she'll wind up doing a cover. Who knows? You know, I don't want any royalties. I just want to like be, you know, even if you put like little text at the bottom that says, "Thanks to Brandon of Audio Addiction," you know, in the very bottom at the end. That's all I need. You know, I need somebody to just give me a little tiny bit of recognition, little credit. You know, I'm okay with that. But very cool. Hopefully you'll be able to work on some cover songs. Who knows? Maybe you might see it sooner than later. Who knows? We'll find out. But the next question, Marta, I loved asking you this question the last time. What is your favorite food to eat and why?
Okay, well, I'll go through the whole story since, you know, we can't have people miss.
Please, you have to.
So, my family every year, except for, of course, this past year because the COVID. But every year we host a lasagna party, and if that's not the most violently Italian thing you've ever heard, I don't know what it is. But
It's either that or moving your hands while you talk. I feel like
yes,
I'm partially Italian. I live in New Jersey, which is like I feel like a very large Italian population. So like I just talk with my hands all the time. So I feel like I'm like an honorary Italian, you know?
yes, yes, and we just do it, and it's funny. We had, I think the very first time that we ever did it, we had 80 people in our kitchen. That's ridiculous.
That's a lot.
It's a 2-day process because we start the day before and we make all of the ingredients and we like go through and make sure that we have everything and we assemble everything, and then the next day we set it up and we let them chill overnight and then we cook them. It's just a whole thing. But of course this year we didn't do that because there are fewer things more irresponsible in a pandemic than having 80 people in the kitchen.
That's fair, yeah.
So we didn't do that, obviously. But that means that we also just haven't really made lasagna this year, and I really miss it. So I was actually telling you last time, I think I texted my mom for the recipe because I'm gonna try and make them all by myself on Easter this year and see if I can replicate them just as well as when we make them as a team.
Well, as I told Marta in the last interview, I said that she has to, like, I feel like she has to document it, you know? I feel like she's got to give me
I'll TikTok it. I won't give the recipe away, but I'll do a little, like, time lapse.
Listen, that's fair. I don't want you giving away the recipe. I mean, if you want to sneak me the recipe, that'd be great, you know? But, like, I'm all about lasagna, and so I feel like for me that would be a very cool experience. I'm also a cook, so I would consider myself an amateur chef, but I was like when you said I make that homemade Italian lasagna, I was like, girl,
yes,
I'm like, lasagna, I'm like, from an Italian, I need to know the secrets. But I feel like I have to ask you this because I don't think I asked you this last time.
Okay.
How many lasagnas do you make? Like, you say you like get prepped, like you must be making like an amass of different lasagnas.
There's a lot. I think I honestly do not remember. I think I blurred it out of my memory for when we had 80 people that one time because that was a lot. But
sure.
I think the past years we've had somewhere around like 30 or 40 people.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say 30 or 40 lasagnas, and I was like, oh my God,
30
that's
or 40 people. But I think it's anywhere between 15 to 20 lasagnas.
What?
I think 15 is usually the number we end up.
Oh, man. You guys are full. Like, if you needed to... I feel like I'm a part of a TikTok where it's like, don't say you're Italian without saying you're Italian. Until you
Oh my God. Yeah,
that's what it is.
We, like, set up in the kitchen and everyone has their station, so like it sounds so weird.
Lasagna stations.
Yeah,
that's
you have, like, the one person that like drains the pasta and then like lays it out to cool, and then you have the one person that's just like sitting there grating cheese for 2 hours because you need that much cheese. It's a trip. It's a fun time.
I feel like I gotta put that meme of that lady who's just like having that has like all of those numbers and like different things coming. Yeah, that's me right now. I'm that lady. I'm having an existential crisis right now. And then all of the people who make make lasagna are like, oh my God, that's they're like secretly like, Marta, can you send me a lasagna right now? You know,
I listen to everyone's DMs with lasagna recipe. That's it.
That's true Italian style right there. I appreciate it. Gotta give you kudos for that because I feel like if I didn't ask that, I feel like I'd be very remiss to not ask you that at all. So I'm glad that you told me that you're making 15 to 20 lasagnas. Man, I don't even know. But that's awesome. Shout outs to your family because that sounds like a hell in a handbasket a little bit, you know.
It is. It's a lot, yeah. But it's a good time.
It's a good time. I feel like it would be a good time. I feel like it'd be a lot of work, but at the end you get lasagna, and I feel like that's who could say there could be worse things, so.
Yes. Yes.
Well, next question, Marta. Obviously we love talking about your Italian heritage, but we can't spend like another 30 minutes talking about making 20 lasagnas. I mean, could listen,
but that's fine.
lasagna talk.
The music is, I guess, the music is more important than the lasagna.
Like if we put music here, Marta's music, and then lasagna is like right
yeah,
here.
just right below.
I feel that. Well, the next question, Marta, you had time to think this over, so maybe you'll come up with a very more extravagant answer. If not, you can keep to the same answer, of course. If you were to collaborate with somebody with a guest feature on your next release and a producer you would like to work with, who would they be and why?
My answer actually remains the same because it's just, Lorde as an artist. She just does such cool stuff. I would love to be in her creative presence just to see how she comes up with the stuff that she does. And then Jack Antonoff as producer. It's like I said, I feel like every single time that I listen to an album and I'm like, oh my God, this is beautiful. I look at, the writers and the producers and his name is always there. So at this point, I'm like, I think I've found a favorite producer. So yeah, I definitely
Jack Antonoff is always working. I feel like every time I watch like an award ceremony, they're like, and the winner is Jack Antonoff, and then he's just like, and then he like goes and sits down, and they're like, and the winner is Jack Antonoff.
Yes, absolutely.
And so he's multi-talented. Jack Antonoff, if you would like to come on, that would be great. I would have Marta on as a special guest. If you want to bring Lorde with you, listen. Yes. Party. Quarantine party right now with Lorde, Jack Antonoff, and Marta Palombo. Just, listen. I would be all about that. But if you want to see this collaboration, you gotta go on the computer or on your phone and type in twitter.com, or if you have the Twitter app, just click on that thing and then just tag Lorde, Marta, Jack Antonoff, myself, and that's it. Like, just say you would love to hear a collaboration between all of these people. I'm not gonna sing. If Marta wants me to do triangle, I'll do that. No problems. Cowbell. Also, yes. I'll also be on cowbell duties as well. So if you want to make this happen, it would make me very happy, and I'm sure it'd make Marta ecstatic. So go do that, and listen. Crazier things have happened. So I feel like, if you don't put it out into the universe, how do you know it exists? So let's do it, guys. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we send in the positive energy.
Yeah, we've introduced the idea, so it's there. It's out there.
It's out there. So expect it coming out very soon. Anyway, next question, Marta. I don't think I asked you this last time, so I'm curious how you're going to answer it. If there was another musical instrument you could play, because we know you sing, and you play a little piano, if there was another one you could add to your roster of instruments that you play, which one would it be?
Cello.
Ooh.
For sure. Yeah, I'm passable at a few different instruments, just in the sense that like I know them well enough to write on them, and if I practice well enough, then I can accompany myself on a few things. But I definitely, if I had to just learn a totally new instrument, it would definitely be cello.
Ooh, yeah. I feel like with your vibe too, cello, I feel like would really work. So, hopefully next time we'll move the needle a little bit further.
Yes.
And hopefully you'll be a master cellist.
Absolutely.
You're gonna give us a symphony at the end of our next interview. That's what I'm expecting. I'll break out the cowbell. We'll be great. Yeah.
Yes.
The next question, Marta, keeping it more interesting, and obviously the reason you're on here, what do you want people to take away from your music? Because like I imagine like just obviously your lyricism it to me is very good, and I really love your styling, the music, all that sort of stuff. I feel like it just comes together. But what do you want like a new listener to take away from what you write, what you're going to be writing, and kind of like what you hope to expect from people that listen to your music?
It's funny, we had a class in college that was very much geared towards figuring out exactly what your niche is and what your brand is and what you represent as an artist. And I really sat down and they told me to come up with one word. I was like, this is very difficult. This is a one word answer is very difficult. But I ended up coming up with the idea of stillness in a variety of different forms. Because I definitely, I'm not the person that you're going to listen to when you want to get hype and listen to like a really upbeat pop track. Everything is like mid-tempo or slower, and I just, try as I might, I just don't write as many up-tempo songs. But I definitely think that the reason that I have always written music is not, I listen to music to get excited, to get hype about something, to have a good day. But more often than not, I listen to music when I have something that's on my mind that I can't quite figure out, and I just need to sit down and I need to allow myself to feel and think whatever comes up in my head. And I can't, sugarcoat anything. I just got to let it come and see what happens, see what I come up with, see what decisions I make and what feelings I have. And that's when I turn to music. And that's why I write, is when I have those feelings and I'm like, I don't know what's bothering me. So I just sit down and I let whatever comes out on the page. And for me, those are definitely moments that I sit there and I know I have a million things to do. I know that, my to-do list is far from done, but I need to sit and just breathe and allow myself to think. And so for me, that's what I hope people take from listening to my music, is just having an artist that they can go to be like, I'm feeling something today, whatever shade of something that is, and you can sit down and you can listen to songs that don't necessarily talk about super happy things, but don't necessarily talk about sad things either. It's just, you get to sit in that gray area for a second and just be. And I think that's really important sometimes, especially because everything today is really fast paced. So I feel like sometimes you need to just sit.
I feel like if I had to, I know you're not asking me, but I'm just going to give you the plug anyway.
Perfect, yeah.
I feel like if I had one word to describe you, I feel like it's just honest. Like, I feel like when I go to listen to your music,
that's good, that's beautiful, thank you.
Not only like with the music, but also like with the lyricism too, I just feel like it comes from an honest place. And so as somebody who listens to a plethora of different music, I feel like for myself, like when I go to listen to Marta, I'm like, you know what, I'm expecting that honesty, and so it cuts super well. Sometimes I like appreciate when artists are a little bit more like, I won't even say intentionally direct, but like sometimes I'm just like, really, Marta, you coming for me like that, so like and it's not like a bad thing. I'm just like, wow, it makes you really kind of reflect and like and really kind of like honestly think about things going on in your life. And so like the doc, when I was listening to it, I was like, I was really that really made me think, so like
good.
so
Yes,
so I feel like the honesty, at least for me personally, was something that I was like, what, she's speaking honestly, so like I gotta respect that, because that takes a lot of cojones. I feel like I don't know. Hopefully people don't take offense to cojones, because that's, whatever. No, here nor there. If anything, I'll bleep it out. Okay. And then you just put whatever word you want in there.
Yeah.
No, but like honestly, it's really cool. And so again, if this interview has not dissuade you from checking Marta out, then you should definitely do that. But the next question, Marta, keeping it fun again, and you might have different answers, who knows. If you were to compile a dream tour lineup, obviously with you on it, who would be on it along with you?
I'm gonna keep the same answer as last time, actually, because I really love, like, living in Nashville. You meet so many cool people, like you just collaborate with so many cool people, and I feel like it would be super fun to go on a tour that's just like all your friends, all of these amazing musical friends that you've made. Like I have worked with so many people here that I'm like, I would love to play a show with you, and maybe our genres don't match at all, but it would be so fun. Like, we would have so much fun together. So I definitely I've written a song or two, and I constantly not constantly, Jesus, I often meet up with a friend of mine named Raquel Blackwood, who writes beautiful music. Mary Moore, I've also met, and she plays such cool songs. And I have one of my best friends who's actually a rock artist here, and his name is Connor Shank, and his band goes by Shank. I'm like, why not just, we would have so much fun on tour together. Why not just combine it and go and hit the road? I feel like that would be really fun.
I would be all about it. As I mentioned in the last interview, listen, if I need to give Marta, if I need to look directly into the camera right now and give Marta the cosign, I'm doing it right now. Guys, listen, Marta really wants you to do this. We're having this heart-to-heart interview conversation. Listen, she wants you to go on tour together, be homies, be friends, do that, be that musical, have that musical fun, So, listen, if I had to give the cosign to anything, I'll be giving it to this tour. So, listen, I feel like the cosign for me is very low on the level here, because there's a lot more larger hoops to jump through in terms of putting a tour together, all that stuff. Forget all that stuff. Just know that I believe in this tour. So if you want to make it happen, listen, just hit up Marta. I don't have to get involved, but if you want to give me a little credit, I'll be all about that. Next question, Marta. You had mentioned it at the beginning of us talking. Favorite TV show, favorite movie, because you have some new ones to share with the people.
Yes, I do. Okay, so last time he asked me this, I blanked, and I gave decent answers.
You gave good answers, yeah.
Yeah. But I definitely have actually thought about it this time. What are my favorite movies? I actually don't watch TV shows very often. I get very impatient with the idea of having to wait for a week for something, and then I have to wait a year for it to continue, and then the story just never ends, and there's so many new characters and you forget everything. I'm just not a TV show person.
Sure. Yeah.
There's too much going on. But I do love, I will sit through a 3-hour movie easily. I love being able to watch a story begin and end. So two of my favorite movies, actually, both with Keira Knightley, because she's one of my favorite actresses. Atonement is Atonement is just beautiful. And the Anna Karenina that they did a couple of years ago is so beautifully shot. It's just gorgeous cinematography. So yeah, those are two that I go back to pretty frequently when I just want something beautiful to watch.
I would agree with Atonement. That's that. I don't know if that. I don't remember you giving me that one the last time.
I gave neither of those answers, but I actually thought about it this time.
Now that answer will forever be in the ether of answers, so you'll never know what Marta exactly said. She only will allow you to believe that those two are the answers.
These are the answers.
So listen, now you'll have to live in a dystopian world where you will not know the true answer Marta gave. In an alternate universe, the audio worked, and we have the other answers. You're right. Next question, Marta. If you were trapped on a desert island for the next month and there was one record you could bring with you, what would it be?
Okay. I know I gave you the answer last time was How Big, How Blue, How Beautiful by Florence and the Machine, which I still agree with. But in that same vein, Wasteland, baby, is such a good album, and I think they're both on the same level in terms of just having any possible emotion that you could be feeling somehow is in that album. So therefore, if you're on a desert island with nothing else to listen to, you're gonna hit something every single time. So I think those are my two that I would decide between.
I'm glad you added the Wasteland recommendation, because that one's also a good one. I feel like I would have a hard time even to come up with those two answers. So very good. The last thing, Marta, the most important thing, tell them about you, where they can find you on social media, what you have coming up, and anything else you'd like to plug, talk about, things of that nature.
Okay, well, yeah, I am Marta Palombo on all social media, so it's Marta Palombo, and yeah, I post pretty frequently on Instagram, on Facebook and stuff, and I really just like involving people in my life. I post a lot about my cat because he always gets in the way of everything. I post a lot about tea. I really love tea, so if you're looking for tea recommendations on my
Always.
social media. Yeah, and in terms of projects coming up, as we've mentioned before, I'm releasing a sort of 3-part project under the umbrella of the Quarantine Tapes. And Sketches was the first single, The Docs is the second one, and we're now gearing up to promote the third one. That'll be out at the end of April. So, yeah, that is something that I am hopefully, if you liked the first two, please stick around for the last one. And yeah, that is what I've got going on. I'm also trying to revamp a lot of stuff after releases in terms of like doing live streams and posting a lot more videos and stuff like that. So if you'd like to come around for that, I would love for you to join me on that journey.
Also follow her on TikTok, because
Yeah.
how, like, because I watched one of your TikTok videos and I was like, the cat, I understand that, because every time I very much worry if my cat is going to get into my shot at all times, but he is currently sleeping on my bed right now, so I will leave him be. However, in an alternate universe, we had the cats on the video,
We did have the cats.
so maybe I kept the video, so
Yeah, with
it'll
no
be
audio. Just
no
insert
audio, just be here, so you'll be able to see our lovely kitties. But I want to give a shout outs to Erica at Muddy Paw.
Yes.
They're lovely people over there, big supporters of the channel, so I want to show big love back, so go support them as well. And the most important thing, go check out Marta. Listen, I feel like I did a lot of pandering, and for all the right reasons, so please go check out Marta. She's phenomenal. If you want to listen to her music, I'll leave links below, as well as just checking out her social media. Make sure to give her a follow. Make sure to harass her about the lasagna,
Yes.
because honestly, if you aren't harassing about lasagna, then you aren't a true Italian. So,
That's fair.
and that's coming from someone who's Asian, so I have no right to be talking in that lane. But go check her out. Go listen to her music, and if you want to hear a collab with Lord and I forget his name. Oh my god,
Jack Antonoff.
Jack Antonoff. I had the brain fart. But go check if you want to hear them collab. All three of them collab. Make sure to add them on Twitter. If you want to add me on Twitter too, that would be great. Just do that, and then listen. If I get like a little bit of cred, street cred, I'd be more than appreciative of that. And if you enjoyed this interview, share, like, and subscribe. It goes a long way. If you watch the whole thing, make sure to put lasagna in the comments, so then I know you watched the whole thing and not just stopped at that lasagna part that we talked about for like 15 minutes probably.
I hope people. Yeah, that's actually funny. I hope people got up to the lasagna part, because I think if anything, if you're like, you know what, I'm bored, then you start talking about lasagna. You're like, wait,
It ropes you back in. Lasagna always. I mean, I was intrigued. I mean, I've been intrigued since the start and now at the end. So go check out Marta. Again, if you like what I do, you know what to do. And thank you to Marta for coming on and doing it again, because the first time was fun, but I feel like this time was just
we got a little deeper.
a little deeper, a little bit better. And so huge shout outs to Marta for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. This is really fun, the first time and the second time. I loved it.